Welcome everybody to our webinar brought to you today by Can Capital. Our topic today is What's Hot in 2016? A great topic. I'm always excited to hear what's coming up and what should we be thinking about, because obviously it influences our products and services, or influences the new products or services that we're going to be launching. So today's webinar will be recorded, and we will be sending you a copy of the recording. Also, we'll be sending you a copy of the slides, so keep that in mind. On the left-hand side of your screen, you will see a group chat. So at any time during the webinar, if you have a question, please feel free to post it in the group chat. And then what I'll do is at the end of the webinar, I'll come online and make sure that we ask Rieva all these questions. So feel free to post at any time. Just remember, we'll respond to your questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so just before we get going and just before I introduce Rieva, on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little group chat. In there, type in what business you're in. So give us an idea of what industry you're in. So just type it in on the left-hand side. You can see some of you are shouting, but we can't hear you, so you got to type it in. See where it says group chat, just type in the type of business you got, and then we'll be able to understand who we have online. There you go. Laser tattoo removal. That's the first business. I think that is really hot for the future. A great business opportunity. Excellent. So just where you've typed in what business you're in, that's where we'd like you to, as you go along, if you've got any questions, please feel free to post them in there. And then what we'll do is at the end of the webinar, as I mentioned earlier on, I will come back and ask questions and make sure that we get them answered. So I'm really excited because it's an interesting topic, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of questions out there. I don't know if you guys are like me, but that's one of the first articles I like reading, either in late December or early January, on what are the new opportunities, what's happening out there. Obviously, it's not easy to predict the future, but it's always interesting to know what's going to happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by introducing Rieva, and then she's going to get the webinar going. So Rieva Lesonsky is the CEO of Grow Business Media, a custom content and media company focusing on small business and entrepreneurship, and the blog smallbusinessdaily.com. She's a nationally known speaker, best-selling author, and authority on entrepreneurship. Lesonsky has been covering America's entrepreneurs for the last 30 years. Before co-founding Grow Biz Media, Lesonsky was the longtime editorial director of Entrepreneur magazine. I don't know why I'm getting stuck on a few words there. Rieva also writes about small business for numerous websites, as you can see on the screen. She's a contributing editor at Success Magazine and the editorial director of Small Business Forum at web.com. So lots of small business experience. And if you've ever seen Rieva presenting, you know that she's passionate about small business, and she's had a lot of experience, so she's going to share with us some of her knowledge and experience. So Rieva, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. I am so happy to be here with you today. Thank you, Can Capital, for giving us the opportunity. This is kind of a sneak, like Andrew said, usually this is December. So because of Can, we're getting kind of a sneak preview of what's going to be hot, both in terms of business opportunities and business trends for 2016. So I have a lot to get through. I'm going to get started, but like Andrew said, if you have any questions, put them in the group chat and I will get to them. Also, like Andrew said, my website, smallbizdaily.com, or you can find what I write, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, on any of those publications listed, and you can tweet me right at Rieva, R-I-E-V-A. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, everybody needs to be their own trend watcher, and those are some of the sites that I rely on, that I go to find out what's hot, what's going on with business. Bloomberg Business Week is a magazine, and at the end, Small Biz Daily, that's us again. We have a Trendcast newsletter that goes out once a week. You get it in your email inbox every Wednesday. It's free, and it just talks about either a hot business or a big trend like mobile marketing and why you need to do it. It's really short. It takes you 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to read, but I try to stay on point. It's really important that small business owners take responsibility for keeping up with what's going on. Okay, so we're going to get started by looking at demographic marketing, because demographics have changed in this country and constantly change, obviously. But I think today the thing to remember is people used to think demographics were demographics, that 50-year-old women or 40-year-old men all thought the same way no matter which generation, and that has all changed. So these are the different generations. We have Gen Z, we have Gen Y, we have Gen X, and we have the boomers and seniors. Gen Y is also the millennials. Same thing, same exact generation. So demographics matter. If you're ever looking for demographic information, you can get it free at www.census.gov. It's the U.S. Census Bureau, and there's tons and tons of information in there. And the reason demographics is important is because you have products or services you want to market, and if you start off marketing them to the demographic that is most likely to want them, that's going to help your business, and then you can expand out. I'm a big believer in expanding beyond that, but when you start, it's really good to target in. It's a much better use of your money. Demographics matter. The reason they matter is because the things that people share in common at the same age and the same gender, like I say, people think, oh, she's 40, this is when you cut your hair, do this, change your wardrobe, that kind of thing. Those things are shrinking, meaning people of the same age and gender don't necessarily have the same things in common anymore, but the differences between people of different ages and different genders are also shrinking. So a 40-year-old woman could very likely have something in common with a 25-year-old woman, where before that never really was the case. So here is the breakdown so you can understand. Seniors, somebody told me the other day, people call them traditionalists because nobody wants to be called a senior. They were born prior to 1946. The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. That is not just a clever name. The baby boom generation is named that because between those years, 4 million kids or more were born in this country. So essentially we had the baby boom. Prior to that, 1965, which is Gen X when it starts, fewer again, which is why if you remember back at the beginning they were calling Gen X baby busters because after the boom there's a bust. We've gotten rid of that. They're Gen X between 65 and 81. Up until recently, people never really knew when to date the millennials or Gen Y, but this summer the Census Bureau came out and said, here it is. We say Gen Y millennials are born between 1982 and 2000, so I thought, well, I'll go with the government definition. And Gen Z are the kids today. They were born between yesterday and 2001. So you may think, well, who cares, Rieva? They're young, they're teenagers, what does that mean? Well, actually, when you look at the kids between 0 and 15, they have, and this is of their own money, they have $44 billion of their own money to spend. Allowances, babysitting wages, I don't know how they get them, but that's the truth. So they have money to spend, and they spend it because they don't have any expenses, right? They're not paying rent or buying their own meals, and so there's a lot of disposable income, which what makes them such a tempting market to target. They also have $500 billion in pester power. And pester power is defined as, Grandma, buy me this, Grandpa, I want to go here, Mommy, Daddy, aunts, uncles. It's pestering the adults in their family, the people with the money, to get them something. They affect $500 billion in purchases. If you own a restaurant, they are very, very big influencers of where the family is going to go out to eat. So the new hallmark of Gen Z is they are very diverse. It's the most diverse generation ever in the history of the United States. You can see the breakdowns there. And so, again, that means different tastes and the same taste. So it's when you live where I live in Southern California, a lot of that diversity is just moved in. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so a lot of that is about they share. They go to school together, so they have a lot of common interests. It doesn't matter what their ethnicity is. Teens. Now, teens are part of that. Teen spending. Everybody thinks teens, this money that we talked about that they have, that they buy things, and indeed they do buy things. But Piper Jaffray, which is a great teen survey that comes out twice a year, it's really amazingly in depth in terms of what teens are doing and how they're spending their money. They said in their latest survey that teens are shifting from buying things to having experiences. So a lot of them are going out to eat, again, if you have a restaurant, but they want to go to events and experiences. So even if you have a retail store and you want to draw them in, kind of try to have an event around it. Make shopping an experience for them. Retail. This is the group that's least likely to believe in the American dream, but they're very invested in products that reflect reality. They understand the realistic nature of the world around them, and they want what they buy to reflect that. For teenage girls, in terms of beauty, and they're big consumers of beauty products, online reviews are the first thing they do, so make sure you embrace that. Don't hide from online reviews of your store or your website. Make sure you monitor it to see what people are saying. 36% more teens will be playing more video games this year, and they prefer to shop online, but at sites that have retail locations over pure e-tailers. So what that means is if you are a retailer, make sure you have a website. Make sure that website is easy to navigate and mobile friendly. And that's the best thing because that goes across all generations now too. So here you can see what they want from retailers. Again, they're very independent. They're self-directed. They're creative. They want what they're buying to reflect that. So, it's not the same old stuff anymore. They're truly digital natives, right? This is the world they know. It's the world that they think everybody else knows. So you need to act organically, digitally with them. That's how you have to reach them, and everything has to be seamless. It just needs to, if your website is not mobile friendly, they're moving on. They don't have time to waste with you, and they actually form kind of negative impressions of your business. Ad Age, which is a great magazine that covers the world of marketing and advertising, said in a recent article that they found it shocking that so few retailers are actually trying to reach Gen Z. And they said that they're leaving a lot of opportunity and money on the table. So for entrepreneurs, I think, who can turn a little bit more on a dime and pivot, if you are not targeting Gen Z, why not start? Teenagers they're consumers and they're influencers. So what they're buying, there's a lot of retail trends that have actually started in the youth market and have worked their way up. We're going to move on to Gen X. Now, Gen X, I think, is probably the most maligned generation, though I think every generation gets maligned at some point. This is the generation that people called slackers. Remember, there are all these movies in the 90s, and they were slackers, and they were lazy, and they were whatever. Well, actually, even though they're a smaller percentage, they're the smallest generation of consumers, other than, maybe seniors, because we don't really know where seniors start. They're only 25% of the U.S. population, which is about 60 million, but they control 29% of the U.S. net worth and 31% earn of the income, because these are the people in their 40s. They're in their 30s and their 40s. They're entering their peak income years. They have money. They're willing to spend it. They want to travel. They're saving for kids' college, but they want to buy luxury products. It's the yin yang, right? They're trying to save because their kids are going to be going to college soon. A lot of them want to start a business. So I notice a few of you are in business services. Maybe you can help them, target them in terms of helping them get started or looking for them to help them to provide your services for them. They're really they're probably the most responsible for the craft brewing trend. They're looking at artisanal foods, and we'll get to that later, premium beer and wine. This is how they feel. They're happy. They're pretty satisfied with their lives. You can see 67% are very or satisfied with their life, and they're actually confident that they're going to be better off financially, that there are better days ahead of them, and they're going to be making more money. Because like I said, they're in their 30s and 40s. For them, they're making good money, and the future is very bright. They are concerned, however, and you can see what their concerns are. So if you're in any kind of health business, if they're a good target, because they are conscious of, being in their 40s, that they're getting older, and they are also concerned about saving for retirement. So they're spending, but they're value conscious. So make sure that's how you market to them. You appeal to them when you're trying to sell to them. Appeal to their desire to provide for their families. Remember, Gen X right now today are primarily the parents of America. There are some millennials who are parents, but Gen X are primarily the ones and some boomers who are still parents of kids under 18. But these are still primarily, this is the parent generation. So pitch products and services that have lasting value. They want to take care of themselves. Again, health, supplements, exercise, very important to them. And they're a little concerned about security, particularly in the world we're living in today. So you can, if you're in the home security business or computer business, you want to show them how they can protect what they have. We're going to move on to boomers and seniors. So I love this survey. This was done by Pew Research, huge research firm. And they asked Americans, how old is old? And you can see that the older you get, the older your definition of old is. So I think it's really funny that 18 to 29-year-olds say you're old at 60, while people who are actually over 60 are 65 and older say you're old at 74. So I'm sure if they polled people in their 70s, they would push it to the 80s. And so that's really important to make sure that you understand, particularly if you're marketing to boomers and seniors. It's not about old. It's not about retiring. It's not about resting or playing golf. They're active in their head. They're years younger than they are, so you need to market to them that way. There's a lot of aging in place going on. So if you think about the big joke, 10, 20 years ago, is in the Northeast or the Midwest, when it got cold, people were snowbirds, right? They would go to Florida or Arizona in the winter, then return back home, and then after they hit a certain age, they'd just retire back down there. There's not as much of that retiring going on. They're aging in place, and so there's a lot of opportunities built around aging in place. New housing, which enables retirees to downsize, stay in their communities. Single floor homes, ranch-style houses are really, really popular right now. There's a lot of remodeling going on to make people's houses that they're staying in senior-friendly, accessible for those with mobility issues, making it a lot easier for people to stay in the house they've lived in for so many years. Some financial services, I noticed a few of you were in the financial services arena. Really great market to target. A lot of seniors need help paying bills or investment advice, and boomers too, because these are, I have a meeting next week with an investment advisor, because these are the things that are prevalent in our minds right now. Fitness is really big here in the LA market. There's actually been some gyms started for 50-year-old plus people. I don't think you could start that in every market. I think you need a big demographic, like a big city, to do that in. But if you're at a smaller market, think about separate classes for them, or selling clothing aimed at that market. They're very physically active, so you can design products around that. Nutritional advice, transportation services for those who can no longer drive. I know that here in Southern California, where you really need a car to go to the grocery store, a lot of seniors who aren't driving anymore are actually using things like Uber, because how else are they going to get around? And so I think there's a big void that could be filled by transportation or shopping services for those who find it too hard to get around. Okay, so those are the demographics. Think of that as we go into the businesses that are actually hot right now. So pets, right? Everybody in America loves loves their pets. So look at the numbers there. There's $61 billion that's going to be spent this year on pets. And that's not medical services. That's like on the stuff and food. 80 million households in America own a pet, and you can see the breakdown. The percentage of households that own cats are higher than dogs. I have always surprised that 9% of people own reptiles. I don't know any. I think I'm glad about that. But so when you look at the pet market, look at that. That's where the pet owners are. 71% of Gen Xers own a pet because they're the parents, right? 65% of millennials own a pet. And people, I wrote about this last year. I haven't heard it as much, but the sentiment is the same. It's called pet parents, right? So people who own these pets think of their pets as a member of the family. And so they buy products for them that are kind of human products, kind of like glucosamine and omega-3s, things that we may take for ourselves. They're now making pet supplements for them. I have no idea if they work or not. They're buying energy bars, foods with superfruits, and gluten-free. I don't know that anyone has ever said that pets need gluten-free food, but they're out there. So people are willing to spend money on pet products as if they were human. Designer pet supplies, really big right now. And because it's so hot, BCs and Angels are looking at companies that are coming up with innovative pet products and services. I've seen pet furniture that is really well designed and not cheap either, but it's selling like crazy. Pet food, and I don't mean you should go out and compete with Purina, but there's a big look at natural and organic pet food or treats. There were a lot of recalls of pet food that came from China a couple of years ago, which is what's driving a lot of that. You can see the money, $2.6 billion on pet dog treats. 476 million cats don't get treats as much, and so that's a lot of money. And again, organic, natural, kinds of different kind of innovations there. Not a bad business to get into, but it's not all about food. It's holiday time right now, right? 64% of people who own pets buy holiday gifts for their pets. 64%. That's a lot of money. 54% of millennials and 45% of people overall buy their pets birthday gifts. So if you have a retail store right now, and let's say we saw how many millennials and Gen Xers own pets, and let's say you have a retail store, and it's not a pet store, but why not take a table and dedicate it, just one table or a shelf, to kind of fun pet products that you can find out there and see if they move. Because people are going to be in your store buying clothes, buying stuff for themselves. People are going to be there buying presents for their Gen Xers, and they may see this and go, well, they have a dog, isn't this cute? I wouldn't spend a lot, I wouldn't make it the high price items, but like in post-purchase, I think it's a great way, especially at this time of year, to get some products in your stores. And you can see pet grooming, a lot of money being spent there. Mobile grooming is a really big business, still on the rise. Brushes alone, $11 million on pet brushes. So you can see that's a hot opportunity for a lot of people. Men, we go from pets to men. How men shop. Men are shopping so much differently today than they used to, but their primary concern for male shoppers is convenience. More of them are shopping for all kinds of products. There was some number about how many men are now doing the grocery shopping for the household, so they're in and out of stores all the time. But they have what people call a search and retrieve style of shopping, meaning they're not browsers. They're not window shoppers. They want to get in, get what they need, and get out as soon as possible. But don't think that because they're not planning that they don't care. So you have to think about male shoppers, not just if you have a sporting goods store, but in any kind of store, and make sure you're merchandising for general products. Like I said, food and grooming products are not overly feminine. So we want to meet one part of the male market, which are the yummies. The yummies are young urban males. It's sort of the metrosexual cliche of the 80s come to life. So this is real. This is not just some kind of scene from Sex and the City on TV. Yummies they're young, and they want to buy luxury items because for them it's at their mark. They're showing that they've made it. They're showing that, hey, look at me, I'm successful. And they can afford to do it because they're waiting longer to get married and have families, so they have more disposable income. So think of this as guys in their, let's say maybe 25 to 35, right? So they have money, they're spending money, mobile marketing is hot with them, they want to shop from anywhere, which means, again, make sure your websites are mobile friendly. And good news for small businesses in general, if you sell luxury goods or offer high-end services or even own a restaurant, make sure you do some kind of marketing appeal to these yummies because they're spending the money. Now, one of the things that they and all men are spending it on is grooming. I mean, 10 years ago, if you talked about men's grooming products, people would have rolled their eyes and said razors and aftershave and moved on. But you can see that this year, we're expecting about $5.5 billion in sales on grooming products. According to Independent Retailer, 2 years ago was the first time that men spent more money on toiletries than shaving products. So the shift really happened 2 years ago. And some of that is the aging baby boomers who are wanting to take better care of their skin and their hair and of themselves in general. They're looking for fast, effective problem solvers. It's about getting them the message, this will do this for you, explaining the benefit of the product. Toiletries is the fastest growing section, and skincare is the fastest growing market segment. So those are the things you can concentrate on, and anti-aging, because men are just as concerned as women about this. So look at this number. This is what I mean about the yummies, right? 38% of men between the ages of 18 and 35 have had a facial or body treatment. And the men who do go to spas get more treatment and spend more money on them than women. Typically, a man who gets a facial, 39% will get one every week compared to 6% of women, because women know it would rip our skins apart. So men have tougher skins. That's just biology, and so they can get one every week. So if you have that kind of business, you're going, you're crazy not to actually target men shoppers. But think about, again, I like to think about how can you make more money. So if you have any kind of those stores, barbershops, yeah, that makes sense. But if you have a sporting goods store, if you have a clothing store that is targeted to men, if you're a gym, if you have a primarily male clientele, again, take a table and put some of these products on them. It can't hurt to try it out. You may find like, whoa, this is just going like crazy, and you may expand to 2 tables or a whole section of your store or your website next year. So you want to make sure that you're not making them go to a department store or a barbershop to get these products. Make them everywhere, because remember what they said, their primary factor is convenience. We're going to move on to Gen Y and Millennials. They're the hugest generation that's ever been in America. 83 million, and that's 83 million native born. That doesn't count people who've immigrated here. They were born between 82 and 2000. As I said before, they're also over 44% are part of a minority. They're not as diverse as Gen Z, but they're very diverse. And they are on the move, and they are going to impact, just by their sheer size, so much stuff. One industry they're going to have an impact on is wedding. Just look at these numbers. It's already a nearly $80 billion industry, and it's just about to take off like crazy. The median age that men and women got married in the 50s. They were in their early 20s. You can see in 2014 it was in their high 20s. That number goes up almost every year. People are getting married. They have more money. That's their household income individually, not their parents. 77% are living together before they get married, and you can see the average cost of a wedding there. So weddings are hot businesses. One of the reasons weddings are hot businesses is that by the Supreme Court making gay marriage legal, basically they doubled the potential number of people who are getting married. So if you are in any one of a number of businesses, and I can show you what those businesses are in a second, you have so many more customers to choose from. So wedding planning, this is from a survey from the knot.com. They are the place where they have all the information, and they're the website that most people who are getting married turn to, that 93% of people getting married go online for their resources. So again, make sure you have a website, that your website is selling stuff on it. 61% are using their cell phones to do it, so you need to make sure your website is mobile friendly and that your marketing is mobile friendly as well. I want to state that now, no matter what business you're in, most emails are now opened on mobile devices. And if they're not optimized for mobile, which most of them are not from businesses, I think only 11% of small businesses make their emails optimized for mobile viewing, they're just deleting them. So I think 63% will delete them. This is just a small handful of the businesses that you can make money from in the wedding industry. So you see there's a lot. There's a lot of potential. Remember what I said, women on the previous slide, women get married, average age 27. If you go back to the demographics, that means they were born in, today they were born in 1988. And when we get to kids born in 1990, that's when we hit another boom year. But essentially, between 1988 and 2014, there were more or very close to 4 million kids a year born, which means from that time span, at every year people are going to be turning that average age and more people are going to be getting married. It's a huge, huge opportunity. Because of that, they're getting married, then what? They're decorating their homes. They're not like their parents. They want smaller houses. They value originality, none of this cookie cutter stuff. And they're willing to buy fixer-uppers. They're willing to do a lot of DIY. And I love this stat because it just tickled me. 59% of them want space in the kitchen for a TV instead of a second oven. My mom was all about that second oven. I need a second oven. And none of my siblings have second ovens in their home and we're not even, millennials. We're all boomers. And so it's not as important as it once was. And they want their home to be technologically innovative. They want it to be wired so they can use all their devices. And they want to brag about their kitchen automation instead of their upgrade. Babies, because they're getting married, again, like I said, we're nearing, you can see that there were 3.985.8. Essentially, you can round that up to 4. I mean, it doesn't count officially, but essentially 4 million kids were born last year. And we haven't even hit that big number yet. So we're going to start seeing, because the millennials are getting married, we're going to start seeing another baby boom again. Numbers. Women in their 30s and 40s having babies, which means there are people with money willing to invest and spend their money on baby gifts, baby clothes, educational services, all sorts of things. That's going to be happening for the next 20 years because that's how long millennials are going to, we're going to see that effect from when they were born. And then who knows what's going to happen with Gen Z. So I think this is probably the future here. They have, like I said, they have more money and they're willing to spend it on their babies. Retail. 2015 retail sales in general are supposed to be up about 3.5%. Holiday sales supposed to be up about 3.7%. Online, that's where the action is. If you have a store, you need to get a website that sells stuff. If you don't have a store but you want to get into the retail business, I would start with a website. It's a lot cheaper. Number one factor, though, when customers go to make an online purchase is they want free shipping. 48% of customers, however, understand that 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 you're in business, and they don't expect you to ship for free if they're spending $10, right? You know, maybe Nordstrom can afford to do that, but chances are a small business can't. So you can set a free shipping minimum. Don't make it like $150. That's not attractive. But here's what I would do. I would look at the average purchase on your website. What do people, the average purchase? So let's just use numbers. Let's say the average person who buys something on your site spends $21 each time they buy a purchase. Make your free shipping minimum $30. So there's a stretch there, or $35, but it's not so uncomfortable a stretch that they won't go on your site to find something so they can hit that number. And then make sure you have a lot of products in that range, whether you label them stocking stuffers or whatever you want. Make sure you have products that people can add to their cart so they hit that free shipping mark, and they don't mind it. Almost half of consumers say, yeah, I'm willing to do that, and make those products easy to find, because what they don't like is wasting their time searching your site for them. So when you look at what consumers are buying this year, you can see from Mintel, there's nothing really surprising there, but what you see what they all have in common is they're things that people buy occasionally online. Clothing, electronics. I think for everyday purchases, people need to go in a store and get what they need. So look at who's buying online. 69% of all adults shop online at least once a month. 33% shop online weekly. But the biggest shoppers are parents. The biggest online shoppers are parents. And the more kids they have, I love this stat, the more kids they have, the more they buy online. Because who has time? Who wants to drag your kids to the store? They don't want to do it. So you can see that 66% of parents with 3 kids buy online frequently, 23% of consumers without kids. So that's 3 times that amount. Emails want to be, millennials want to be emailed to. So don't worry about sending them marketing emails. That's what they prefer. They don't want, I don't think text marketing, a lot of people are doing it, but I don't know of any consumer group that has embraced that yet. So again, when you look at retail, they're looking at shopping as an experience, and I think that's something, if you remember earlier, they picked up from Gen Z. They want the store to be comfortable, to be welcoming, to, you know, maybe serve some refreshments. Make sure you have comfortable chairs, either for moms or dads shopping with kids, or husbands shopping with spouses. You know, when somebody shops, if their partner is restless, they're going to not spend as much time looking around your store. It's all about the service and the experiences. Make sure your store smells nice and looks good. You want to give the consumers a reason to walk into your store. You can't compete on price with the big guys, so you have to compete and offer them something else. Consumers want to buy online and return in the store. That goes back to what the Gen Z is looking for, right? They want to buy from retailers that have physical presences because they don't want to have to go, particularly at holiday time. Nobody wants to go to the post office to return this gift or to return this present, a gift of stuff they bought themselves. So they want to be able to buy it online. It doesn't work. They want to walk into your store and be able to get a refund or exchange it. So make that seamless. That really needs to be as easy for them as possible. Beware of showrooming, which is people coming into your store looking at stuff and then ordering it online. You can't compete on price, so your thing for showrooming is to make sure if you see somebody looking at their phone, come over and just say, hey, can I help you? What can I do? How can I help you pick out something? And just be really helpful. This is a particularly fast-growing part of retail. It's called athleisure. People are buying athletic apparel, but not necessarily to exercise in. This is the clothes that people wear every day. This yoga number, yoga participation last year was up 4.5%, but yoga apparel sales were up 45%. People are buying the clothes to wear every day, so it's a great market. If you're selling regular clothes, if you have a boutique, add some of this stuff to your store, and you can either sell it or manufacture it. You know, you can buy it like from a place like Alibaba, AliExpress, or you can set up this company that I took that picture from. They make their own clothing. So m-commerce, really important. You see that 30% of e-commerce sales this year are going to be m-commerce. That means mobile. That means sales actually from people's smartphones and tablets. Look at the numbers. Last year, it was $75 billion. This year, it's going to be $104 billion. I'm sure it's going to be more than that. People are using their smartphones to research products before making a purchase, and 80% say their perceptions of retailers would improve if you offered mobile deals and coupons. So they don't want marketing messages, but they don't mind if you send them a coupon over their phones. We're going to move into food here. Artisanal food, it's still hot. People like to eat food that has some kind of artisanal appeal, and this is just reinventing existing products, making them fancier, adding some ingredients to them, changing the packaging, making them seem a little bit more exotic. You're taking, like coconut water, right? So you took water, somebody added coconut essence to it, and bam, billions of dollars later. Organic is still important, as is the buy local movement, which is important if you own a restaurant. Also, if you own a restaurant, understand that a third of Americans are on a diet. 1/3 of Americans are on a diet at any given day. And when you see the ones, this is a poll of people, how are they dieting? They're 18% are cutting carbs, the high protein diet, gluten-free diet, the paleo diet. Every single one of those diets, while separate, restrict carbs. So that means that's what people are going to not order in your restaurant or from your food truck. So make sure you have great sources. If you sell hamburgers, make sure you have an alternative. In-N-Out, which started the trend, I think, they call it a protein burger, which is just lettuce. And I've seen a lot of people try to do it, and they do it wrong. They put too much lettuce or too little lettuce. Experiment with the right amount of, it's basically iceberg that works best, lettuce instead of a hamburger bun. So you want to make sure you have a lot of alternatives for people when there's that many of them. Bread and pasta, we're actually seeing an effect in Italian restaurants. Dining is down there because of the bread and pasta and where noodles are served. People are going into more steak restaurants. They're eating more meat. So you want to give and offer these dieters what they want. So add protein options. Try to add dessert options that aren't as high in calories. Allow substitutions. If your meal comes with potatoes, don't say no substitutions or we're going to charge you more, because people won't come back. If they want to have broccoli instead of potatoes, who cares? Let them do it. Don't charge more for it. Like I said, offer your burgers wrapped in lettuce, and ask before you put the bread basket on the table, because if you don't and they're not going to eat it, you're just wasting food that's costing you money. Is there life after cupcakes? I saw that somebody on the chat here is in a bakery. So everybody says we're still looking, because the cupcake craze lasted forever. But a lot of people are saying it's ice cream, right? We've seen, if you look at the previous slide, we've seen a lot of noise about cake pops and donuts and macaroons, but really ice cream. Americans eat 1.5 billion gallons of ice cream a year, spending $14 billion in the process. Right now, I have to tell you, in Southern California, ice cream sandwiches, kind of artisanal, are hot. I can think of 3 that are within like 2 miles of my house. People are selling them from trucks, from kiosks, from storefronts. They're really big in college towns and in strip centers. You can go franchise. There are franchises that are doing them. You can be an independent and do it. It's not just about cookies too. So they're offering, one place here gets their ice cream from elsewhere. They don't make their own ice cream, but they do bake their own cookies, which just draws people in because the smell of the fresh baked cookies. But don't think of just cookies. What else can you put ice cream between? You can make ice cream sandwiches from macaroons, waffles, cinnamon rolls, and Pop-Tarts. And a friend of mine was, when I was telling him, we were talking about what's hot, and I was telling him like ice cream sandwiches, because he was near where I do, and we were seeing all these ice cream sandwiches places open, and he said, he called me a few weeks ago, and he said, oh my God, there's this place that sells donut ice cream sandwiches. It's unbelievable. So I haven't had one yet because I'm one of those 33% of Americans on a diet, but I'm going to get one on my cheat day. So I mentioned before, craft beer. Sort of artisanal beverages are really in. Craft beer industry doubled in profits in the last 5 years. By 2019, it's going to top $36 billion. And because a lot of local governments have seen that it really improves the local economy, some cities are actually funding or helping fund startup breweries. It does bring a lot of business, and it's not just from the sales of the beer, but from accessories like glasses and T-shirts and that kind of thing. Again, focus on a hyper-local angle, farm to table. People are really concerned about that. And then be creative. If you're thinking about this business, they're infusing it with locally grown coffee or spices or fruits and that kind of thing. And a lot of beers that started out as craft, like Blue Moon, are now no longer craft, so a lot of consumers don't know that. So you want to make sure that if you're in this business that you kind of tout your bona fides, because there's a lot of beer that's masquerading as craft that is no longer that way. It's taken a lot of other spirits up to that level as well. Here's this great opportunity. I want you to look at this. It's called, Can Capital is doing this awesome giveaway. It's called Take the Reins. And you can see the website to go to, Can Capital, takethereins.com. And what you get if you go there is you can win $5,000 to help you grow your business in 2016, or you can win a customized plan from me or Gene Marks, who is brilliant. He's an entrepreneur. He's really funny. Not that I want to sell Gene over me, but he has got a great, wicked sense of humor. And you can win a customized plan from one of them. So make sure you go there and enter that contest. Because I think it'd be a great prize to win. I want to thank you for the presentation, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Rieva. It's very interesting to hear, some of the comments here. I just want to encourage people, if anybody's got any questions, just post them in the chat column and we'll get Rieva to answer them. So one of the questions I have, Rieva, that somebody messaged me, when it comes to small business, it's getting really quite difficult, for us to build a successful business out there, because a lot of these big companies are pushing us out and things like that. So what do you think the way forward is for small business? Where are the big opportunities? Obviously, these industries are really interesting, but where do you see the small business in 5 years' time? Will we be doing mostly offline, mostly online? What do you think are going to be our competitive advantages?
Well, one of the things I think that's very encouraging is we've seen a resurgence of Main Street, right? So you're right, big businesses, you can't compete on price with them, and you can't try, because if you do, you're going to lose. And so you have to offer consumers what big businesses can't, which is personalized service. So you need to use things like big data to collect information on your customers so you know what they like, you know what they want, and you can suggest next products to them and for them. That's number one. But number two, I grew up in a retail background in my family. My grandfathers both owned their own stores. My uncle owned a liquor store. My dad owned a men's clothing store in neighborhoods. This was pre-malls. This was in neighborhoods. And then the malls opened and the neighborhoods kind of went away and the malls became dominated by big chains, right? My dad wouldn't take his store to the mall. In the mall you had the big chain clothing stores. Now, however, we're seeing pushed a lot by local economies and by gentrification, but not to the extreme gentrification. We see a lot of these small local businesses popping back up on Main Street. That's where entrepreneurs need to look at. If you want to be in a retail business, go to an area that is on the verge of emerging, and they're in every city. And see about opening a store there. Negotiate, because once that hits, the rents are going to go up. So try to not get like a short-term lease there. And we've seen change. I've seen it with ice cream trucks that are ice cream trucks in New York City, there were several that started when the big craze hit like 4 years ago that just started with a truck, right? They bought a used truck, didn't cost them a lot of money, roamed the streets of New York selling ice cream, then they added another truck, then they added another truck, then they opened a store, then they opened a second store, and now their products are in grocery stores. So you can do it. You just have to target the community and sell your smallness. I think Americans want to shop small. I think with Small Business Saturday coming up, take advantage of the opportunities that consumers are being pushed to shop small. And I think 5 years from now, I think we'll be fine because I don't think that Main Street trend is going to change, but you have to have an online component. Your site needs to be easy to navigate, and it needs to be mobilely optimized.
Yeah, and you mentioned quite a few times the importance of it being mobile optimized. And, I mean, do we see a lot more people buying on their phones? I mean, is it still not a bit of a clumsy thing? Is this something that us small business owners should be planning for, is really making sure that our people can purchase products really easily on our phones? Is that where you think we should be spending our marketing or our investment dollars when it comes to technology?
Absolutely. Go back, I can't find it right now, that slide that I showed with e-commerce numbers, they're on the rise. Mobile commerce numbers, I mean the m-commerce numbers, they're on the rise. People are buying on their phones, they're buying on their tablets, and mobilely optimized sites mean that it's easier to buy. So a mobilely optimized site would not have Flash in it, for instance, because phones can't manifest Flash, particularly iPhones. They don't use it. Mobilely optimized sites have a lot of drop-down menus, like just push a space and here are your choices rather than having to fill a lot of things in. They automatically remember stuff. I mean, you ask people, do you want it to remember? So the next time they come back, they don't have to type things in. They make the pictures big enough to be seen, but not so big that it slows loading time. That's the big complaint that consumers have about mobile sites, is that it takes a long time to load. So this is not hard. It's not expensive. This is the thing that's, go to your web developer, whoever hosts your site or whoever developed your site, and ask them how much it would cost. What you want is something, the easiest way to do it, it's something called responsive design. It doesn't work in 100% of the cases, but what responsive design does is it knows whatever device it's being called up on, and it will fit that device. So if somebody calls it up on a 10-inch iPad or a 4-inch iPhone or any kind of phone, it will fit on that site, on those devices, and that's really important. And responsive design, we changed our site, and we don't even sell stuff on our site, but we changed our site to responsive design, and it cost us less than $500 to do that. It is not expensive to do, but it is critical that you do it.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that we understand that that's the way things are going. I think, the future of retail is going to be a combination of people buying on your website, people buying on their phones, and sometimes coming into the stores. Now, I just wanted to focus on some of the hot business opportunities you mentioned. When it comes to pets, people it seems like it's become part of their family. Pets are so important nowadays. And I think a lot of these services probably that we're offering humans, like pet photography, pet massage, and those seem to be massive opportunities.
Yeah, there was someplace in San Francisco, I think 3 years ago, that did pet yoga. So they would encourage people to bring their dogs with them, and then the owner and the dog would do yoga together. So, I mean, you saw the number of Gen Xers and Millennials who own pets, and so they do think of these pets as members of their family, so they're willing to spend money on it. And so I think it's a good opportunity, and as I said, one of the big things that I think that people don't think of is they think, well, I'm in this business, and they kind of put their blindfolds on, their blinders, and they think, this is what I do, so I sell this product. And I think, no, that's old thinking. Today you have to think of not what you sell, but who do you sell to. So think of the customer. Who are they? What do they buy? What else would somebody who shops in the store because you're targeting a certain demographic, what else would they buy, and how can I get my hands on some of those products to offer to them as well? And two, service providers. Everybody can be a retailer today. I don't care if you're an accountant, where you think, no, I'm not going to sell stuff. Everybody can sell stuff today, and there's products out there that are easy to find and not expensive. Amazon has a wholesale part. eBay, Alibaba is really, it's not just Alibaba. In a lot of times at Alibaba you have to buy big quantities. But if you go to AliExpress, you can buy 5 of something and see if it works. And if it works, you can go back to that merchant and then up your order. And you see what the prices are. Don't be nervous about doing business with foreign, Chinese, other Southeast Asian companies. They're fine. Alibaba checks most of them out. They have a new program that will guarantee your money back if people are in that program. Experiment. Just take a few of your dollars and experiment and see what works.
I really like that concept of, just selling, even if it's a little amount. I mean, do you see a future where basically everybody runs a business, everybody's selling something online, even if it's making $500 a month? They open their little e-commerce store and they're selling a product or a service. Do you think that's going to become more common?
I do. Look at Etsy, right? So Etsy is people, it's like hobbyists. So Etsy was brilliant. It gave hobbyists a place to sell their wares. And now Amazon has their own version of Etsy where it's homemade goods that people are making and selling, and supposedly they have rules. And I think Etsy is adding another division that for people who have made so much money what they're doing, they can't make them by themselves anymore, and maybe are making things in a factory and stuff. But when you think about 20 years ago, nothing like Etsy existed, and now you can, if you're a creative person, you can start part-time. I think that's the beauty of a lot of these sites is you don't have to invest a lot of money, and you don't have to invest a lot of time. With Etsy, make one necklace, see if it works. If it does, make a dozen more. If it doesn't, make something else. There's not a lot of risk in doing that kind of business, and I think it's a great way to get started.
So earlier on you were speaking about, home decor, that a lot of these millennials are now buying smaller homes and redoing them. Do you think a lot of these young people are going to be moving from the suburbs rather to the big cities and buying these little places and being happy? I mean, that's obviously a big opportunity for small business because we've got a lot of the stores, in and around the cities, and it gives us opportunities. Do you think that's going to be one of the things we need to look forward to?
I think yes. I think it's going to be an ebb and flow because I think, it's really interesting. I'm from New York originally, and a couple of my cousins, my sister wants to, having spent all the years in the suburbs raising the kids, now that they're older, they want to move back into the city. One of my cousins already did, sold their house and bought an apartment in the city. So I think we're going to see, and so they're baby boomers, right? I think younger people are going to live in the cities initially, and then as they have kids, maybe they want to move back to the suburbs to raise their kids, to give the kids the experience they have, and then move back in. So I think because America is such a big country, and we have so many people in each generation, that I think there's going to be a constant ebb and flow of people moving back and forth. And I just think that if you're in the suburbs, a lot of suburbs kind of got away from that Main Street mentality. And I live in a suburb that doesn't have a Main Street, so they built a mall that they're trying to make the mall be like Main Street, trying to attract a lot of kiosks and carts and kind of give it more of a city street feel to get people to stroll and window shop. So look at that. Look and see if your city or a nearby town is doing that if you are in the suburbs, because that is still a great opportunity for entrepreneurs.
One last question we have here is about, you spoke about stores being a little bit more social, where a customer comes and sit down and has a cup of coffee, maybe has a discussion, and then buy stuff. Sounds like we're going back to what small business used to be, where there was a community store and you could have a discussion with the owner. Do you think that's a trend that's going to take place?
Oh, yes, and this is so important. This is why, but it's easier today because we have data, right? It's not something we have to keep in our heads. One of my favorite stories, my dad, like I said, had a men's clothing store in Queens, New York, and at holiday times or before Father's Day, every one of us had to go work. And so it must have been one of those times, and I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and a guy walks in the store, and this was at the time when men's shirts became very colorful. And my father says, go help that man match his shirts to his size. And I'm a sassy teenager, and I go, he's a grown man. He can match his own shirts to his size. And my father said, he's colorblind. Go help him match his shirts to his size. Now, if you walked into Nordstrom, would anybody know that? No. That's your advantage of a small business owner. Knowing your customer, creating the atmosphere where you can find that out, that you can note that and remember that and take care of that person. They will come back to your store every single time.
That really excites me because I think that was one of the things that, that was one of our competitive advantages, and that seems to be where we're going back to, and I think that's going to be one of the big advantages that small business has. I just want to remind everybody again, there's a link in the chat column if you'd like to click on it, cancapitaltakethereins.com. It would be great to start the new year with an extra $5,000, maybe to increase your inventory or to diversify into some of these opportunities. So I encourage you to go to the website and check it out. A couple of final words, Rieva, so we can end off the webinar.
Well, if anybody has any questions, you can email me at Rieva, R-I-E-V-A, at smallbizdaily.com. I'm happy to answer your questions about that or other things. I noticed somebody was for nonprofit in there. I gave a presentation 2 weeks ago in Milwaukee for nonprofits. I'm happy to email you that presentation. If you'd like, just email me. I think this is just such a great time, Andrew, to be a business owner because there's so many more opportunities out there and so many easier ways, and companies like Can that are there to help business owners just do it better and smarter and easier. So take advantage of it. It's a great time. The economy's in good shape, and just go sell stuff.
I agree with you 100%. I think 2016 is going to be a great year for small business, and you've inspired me. I was inspired before. I'm more inspired now to look for opportunities, and I think all of us need to think about this. We need to be using more mobile commerce. We need to be using e-commerce. We need to be looking at our stores, re-merchandising them, or online or offline stores, and think about some of these target markets. I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to grow our business over the next couple of years. Thank you very much, Rieva. Thank you very much, Can Capital, for hosting this webinar. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you learned, like I did, a bunch of really useful things that you can use. And remember to check out the website. Go to cancapitaltakethereins.com. Join the competition. Win $5,000. And I wish you the best for the balance of the year for Thanksgiving next week. And may 2016 be your best year ever. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.